7 o'clock, I've got my panel, the pollster, academic and GB News presenter Matt Goodwin and political commentator Kevin Craig. And of course, please do get your views in at gbnews.com/your say. Now, in big news this evening, Rachel Reeves is under mounting pressure after fresh claims that she misrepresented the state of the UK economy, with the OBR now admitting that there wasn't any justification for Wednesday's sweeping tax hikes. Well, the Fiscal watchdog revealed that it told the Chancellor back in September that the alleged black hole she cited to defend almost £30 billion in tax rises was in reality only around £2.5 billion. In other words, the black hole does not appear to have existed at all. Well, the revelation may have political consequences for Rachel Reeves, but there's also been economic fallout. As the former chief economist of the Bank of England, Andy Haldane, has pointed out, we've had month after month of speculation, and that's been costly for the economy. It's caused paralysis among business and consumers. It's the single biggest reason why growth has flatlined. It's been grounded in the second half of the year. So turning to my panel, Kevin, let's start with you. It seems like Rachel Reeves was playing political games here, but I don't understand why. If she'd raised more tax than she expected, she could have claimed that as a victory and not needed to go back for more.
Well, Miriam, if GB News ever wonders why the Chancellor doesn't call Christopher Hope, the editor of this channel, the hysteria that has gripped the station this afternoon is an example. And I'll tell you what my position is, which is the OBR, listeners and viewers need to know, it never said that there was no need for tax measures. And it is dishonest of this channel and it's the Mail and the Telegraph to say so. My position, and it will be of many others, is that what the OBR actually said, it provides forecasts and not political judgments. The budget that the Chancellor put forward, which is not being talked about today, was about freezes to rail fares, the rising wages to millions of people across the country, cuts to energy bills and tackling the debt level of this country and the NHS and the cost of living. And what's going on this afternoon is a total attempt to whip up a political attack on the Chancellor when she was totally transparent about the forecast she was using and the measures that she set out and costed.
Kevin,
so there's nothing to see here.
I completely respect your view that this is hysteria, but it is not confined to GB News. All the papers are reporting it. The Guardian are leading with official forecasters chair says Chancellor knew about the revised predictions, leads with the headline, OBR challenges the claims that Rachel Reeves dropped income tax rise. So it is not just the right-wing media.
Specifically, one second, Matt. Miriam, the Guardian is not saying that the OBR said there was no need for the tax measures, which has been running all after. Okay, no need. Yeah, but it's massively important because the listeners and viewers who are out there living real lives and working jobs and coming home, they would believe all of this and think there's some Watergate scandal, and there isn't.
Hang on a second. Firstly, this is on the front page of every national newspaper as we come on air. I don't think you'd say the Institute for Fiscal Studies is a very anti-Labour institute. Well, sorry, you've had your bit. Let me talk, OK? The IFS are saying publicly they think Rachel Reeves has lied to the country. And the reason that it matters for the people viewing this show and for millions of people in this country is because they've also now been clobbered with another £30 billion of tax rises, largely to subsidise people who don't want to work and people who are not even from this country, because Rachel Reeves led them down some dodgy path, making up a narrative that wasn't based in reality. Look at the timeline. September 17th, the OBR gives initial forecast to the Treasury showing that higher tax revenues have wiped out the £21 billion of productivity downgrade that Rachel Reeves said was the reason that she had to introduce tax rises. October 31st, the OBR's last pre-measures forecasts are handed over. Rachel Reeves is told she is meeting her fiscal rules with £4 billion of headroom. So why then...
Are you asking me a question at the end of this that I can respond to, just to be clear, Matt?
Is everyone who's watching this show, why have you just sent the tax burden in this country up to the highest level on record based on lies?
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Right, it's not lies. She set out a fully costed budget, okay? And what's going on here, and I can say this as a signed-up entrepreneur, capitalist, the creator of a multi-million-pound business who pays taxes and employs people. There are many. Jason Stockwood is a minister in Rachel Reeves' Treasury team who comes from a working-class background in Grimsby and founded a multi-million-pound company. I am. The lies. OK, great question. Sorry, Miriam, just to go back to Matt's issue about lies. The OBR saying that there was no need for tax measures, to say that is a lie. That's a lie. They haven't said it.
Kevin, I think the pinpoint for me, though, is not that the budget was or wasn't fully costed. Obviously, there's a full report published early that explains the costings. It's not that. It's that she laid the pitch, she rolled the pitch at that extraordinary press conference a few weeks before the budget, saying that we're all going to have to pull together because of all these terrible headwinds, and she blamed Brexit and all other things. But we now know that she knew that wasn't actually going to be necessary. I'm not arguing the budget wasn't costed, but I'm arguing that when she made that speech, she knew that wasn't actually necessary.
Well, budgets are prepared, and you know this because you're a former Conservative Member of Parliament, right? So you've got experience in government. You were very well respected when you were in there, and you know that budgets are prepared over months. So the forecast that a Chancellor or the team receives, it's over a long period of time, OK? And she has to take the political judgment. And where I will agree with you, you go back to that press conference, I've publicly said some of the news management has been shambolic of the government in recent weeks. But ultimately, what the viewers and listeners need to decide is, do they approve of the measures in the budget? And some people don't like the changes to the two-child benefit cap. Now, Reform, which I think is your party, Matt, was in favour of it and isn't now.
Whoa. There's a difference.
Hang on, you've had your bit. You've had your bit. I heard that. You said to me, you've had your bit. No. He didn't let me. He didn't let me. He said you've had your bit, Kev.
I know, but then you have now. Come on, I'm refereeing this. You have now had a chance to defend.
Just so everyone at home is aware, what the Labour Party are doing is they're taking off the cap, so they're going to essentially provide more welfare, mainly, to be frank, for families of Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Nigerian heritage.
Is that
that
true?
Are more likely,
mainly?
Look at the numbers.
Mainly?
Can I finish?
I'm asking you to justify your stat.
Can I finish?
I'm asking you to justify your stat.
If you look at the research that came out yesterday, it shows very clearly those are the families most likely to have three or more children, and they're often in Labour areas. What is Reform saying? Reform is saying, yes, they'll take the cap off, but for British parents who are working. Okay. There is a key difference. We have to have more babies in this society if we're going to ensure this country survives. Labour, you've turned our national welfare state into an international welfare state, which the people at home are having to subsidise and pay for. Why are they paying £10 billion a year on welfare benefits for people who aren't British?
OK, so a couple of things.
Why?
Well, hang on, let's go back to your point. You said that the two-cap benefit, the two-child benefit cap, you said, which, let's be honest, will apply mainly to families of whatever ethnic origin, That's not correct.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes.
Well, we'll have to fact-check it.
Hang on a minute. There is a difference between families of ethnic minority origin are disproportionately likely to claim and the overall share of the budget.
Thank you.
And I think we would actually need to see the actual figures.
Right, thank you very much. And so the big picture, which I'm very happy to debate, is a government that is taking difficult measures to turn around the economy. And there's no debate. I'm sorry, it might be uncomfortable, but there were big fiscal pressures inherited from the large government, and there will be a long time to turn this around. And on welfare, Matt, I am comfortable as somebody who likes aspiration and making money that there have been hundreds of... You can laugh, but you've got no substance to it, mate. I am comfortable in a society where we are not punishing children in poverty for the mistakes of their parents, whilst at the same time, over there on the far left, Labour is getting a ton of grief from the Greens and other extremists for some of the more sensible measures we've taken on the economy.
Sorry, this idea that this is a budget for aspiration.
It is.
This idea that this budget is somehow helping...
More companies to list in London.
No, I'm sorry.
It's a fact. It's a fact. There's measures in the budget to encourage companies to list on stock exchanges in our country.
Miriam, can I just say something, please, and just end this fantasy land that is being presented to us? You have just clobbered this country over 2 budgets with £70 billion of tax rises. You are forcing workers, small businesses in this country, to subsidise people who don't work, they live on welfare, they're not contributing to the economy, while also flooding this country with low-skilled, low-wage migrants from outside of Europe.
Matt, the country... we haven't talked about the reduction in migration figures that's happening under this government's watch.
Let's talk about that, because
it doesn't suit.
Is down,
it doesn't suit the narrative.
Your party, let's be clear, your party, you are destroying...
interrupted our chair there.
You're destroying this country. You're destroying this economy.
Let's talk about specifics. So, net migration is down. That is true, and there are certain types of migration that are significantly down. For example, the care worker visa that the last government reduced. But the gross migration figures are still very, very high. And what's shifted the net migration down is the number of people, particularly British people, who are leaving the country. So I don't think it's time that we actually talked about gross immigration rather than just sticking to the net migration figure.
Well, yes, but what I predicted before on this channel is, as soon as Labour starts to get a grip on things like use of asylum hotels and certain aspects of migration, the debate will then attempt to shift. And historically, the numbers are still high, but it's 16 months in and progress in the right direction, because the Labour government knows that it matters.
There's no progress.
But there is.
Matt,
the use of hotels, just so people know, the use of hotels is up 23%. We've never had... There are record numbers of asylum applications being made in this country. Asylum seekers now represent about 40% of all net migration into this country. And you're sitting here talking about a success story.
Yes, because the cost is going down.
Reform have talked about net zero migration, your policy. But given how difficult it's been to control or even predict how many people come in each year, because it's not an easy thing to predict. You don't know how much demand there's going to be for particular visas. How would you ensure over a period of time that you have net zero migration?
Well, I think there's lots of things we need to do. We need to leave the European... Well, firstly, there are 2 issues. One is how do we control the borders, which Labour are failing to do, and the second is how do we reshape legal migration, which has been completely...
But how do you do that? Because the last government proved that if you set a particular salary cap, you then can't predict exactly how many people will apply for visas.
But the first broad point we need to do is do what neither Labour nor the Tories have done, which is stand up to global corporates and lobbyists who constantly pressure governments into lowering salary thresholds and flooding this country with Deliveroo drivers while we're losing British professionals to Italy, to Dubai, to Estonia. We need to basically ensure that we can get to a high-skill migration policy of much lower numbers of people who are coming in and people coming from culturally compatible nations. What Labour are doing is what the Tories are doing. They've lowered the salary thresholds, flooded the country with low-skilled, low-wage workers from outside of Europe who have brought many of their relatives in. And to be frank, I think it is... You know, the numbers this week were so depressing to me. We've lost 100,000 Brits and we've replaced them with Deliveroo drivers and illegal migrants from Eritrea. And you're sitting here like this is a success story. You are changing this country in ways that really should make the Labour Party hang its head in shame. It's absolutely outrageous what you're doing.
OK, so I'm going to come back on that. So let's go to a couple of things you said, because you're quite angry at global corporates.
Yes.
Do you mean global corporates like Nvidia and JP Morgan Chase, who are investing billions of pounds in this country and creating jobs.
I mean, the way in which both Labour and the Tories for 30 years have put big business ahead of the interests of British people.
So you're against the businesses, the global corporates, as you call them, which are international companies that are crucial for the lives of people listening and watching this tonight. You're against them.
You know as well as I do. You know as well as I do. You don't need to smirk. Big business
I'm not smirking.
has undercut.
You shouldn't interpret
come on,
my.
guys,
Listen,
stick to the topic.
I know.
Undercut
but he
British
just said,
workers.
What's that about?
Big business has undercut British workers for 30 years. That's why they're addicted to mass immigration, because it undercuts British workers, it floods the economy, keeps their labour costs low and their profits high. Now, it's funny. Why am I explaining this to a Labour person? I used to think the Labour Party cared about the interests of workers.
It does. Everything in this budget is, if you look at it, the number, you can, listen, let's stick to the facts.
And we're moving.
Right. The budget was about improvement to the NHS, living standards, energy bills, reducing our nation's debt. It's all set out.
That's and all I'm higher at the end of this.
Interrupted.
Impossible. Let's
Impossible.
quit there. We need to move on. Right, we're going to stick with immigration because coming up after the break, Donald Trump halts immigration from what he calls the third world after an Afghan immigrant shot 2 National Guardsmen, killing one of them. Well, he's now threatening to strip citizenship from migrants that he deems to be disruptive.